Hey there, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. Join Brittany as she interviews incredible people whose stories will uplift you and remind you the life you long for is just ahead. Buckle up for an inspirational ride to your best life. Take it away, Britt.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. Super excited to have you today. And as you know, you're going to get us listening on wherever you listen to podcasts, but you're also going to be able to watch us via YouTube. So all the recordings that are going to be coming out in 2025, mid-year, you're going to get the opportunity to see us and our faces and get to experience the magic and the just intentionality that's behind each and every guest, the raw and real material. And it's so exciting to know that you guys are all going to be able to experience this. So I am genuinely excited for this conversation. If you have the opportunity to listen to part one of this podcast, part one was in January, where we talked about nutrition and lifestyle and life coaching and just sustainable things that you can be doing to take next steps for the better version of yourself. And so this call is going to be the same thing, sustainable choices and decisions, but we're going to be really diving into faith and to fitness, which I didn't pick both F's on purpose. That did not happen. But I have two incredible guests that I want to introduce and really have an honest conversation about where they've come, how they've grown, and what makes them equipped to even have this conversation. So you actually can go back and listen to both of their episodes. Both of them have been on the Brittany Wheeler Show. And so I'm going to introduce first. So Kevin Baca is a boyfriend, a son, a brother, an uncle, a former bodybuilder, and a bodybuilder coach, as well as a police officer in his full-time job. Brandon Baker, who is also here with us today, he is a husband, a father, a son, a brother, and a lead pastor. And so you're going to get to hear a lot of amazing things from both these guys. So I just want to welcome Brandon and Kevin to the Brittany Wheeler Show. Welcome, guys.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
You're welcome. I know. And, once obviously we're recording and both of your episodes kind of come out back to back from each other, they'll all already been out for several months. So I'm excited that the audience won't feel like you're strangers. They're already going to get an example of your heart, your passions, your convictions to what you do in your, day-to-day life. And that really, I think, makes a difference. And it's honestly the feedback that I get from all our listeners is just how emotionally impacted they are by the guests. And I know that people are going to be blessed by this episode. So for those of you that don't know, I'll give you the intros. Brandon and I went to high school together, played basketball together, high-fived down the hallways together. You can hear more about our story on his, he actually complimented me because I'm kind of tall, 5'7" and a quarter. Maybe the doctors say 5'7", it's fine. And he's very tall. And so we were one of the tallest at our school. And so you can hear more of our story and how we got to know each other in his podcast. And then Kevin and I went to college together, had a chance to live together our sophomore summer, and have stayed close in our college friend group. And again, you can hear more of our story in his podcast. So you can go back and listen to that there. But today I really want to jump into sustainability. And it's something I'm really passionate about. And when I first started health and wellness, when I first started into my own fitness journey and into just like all the things we're going to talk about today, I didn't have the mindset. I didn't have the determination, the discipline, or any of those things to be sustainable. I didn't know that. And so what I'm excited for is the audience to really get something that they can take away to take those first steps towards that better version, towards sustainability. So Brandon, I want to start with you. You started your walk with Christ in your mid-20s, which again, you guys, we're not even going to be able to dive into 1/17 of his story, and you have to go listen to it. It's going to blow your mind. It's incredible and just beautiful and all the things. And so he didn't become a pastor until very recently, actually in 2024. So Brandon, what do you believe would help a listener who is feeling lost and looking to take steps in their faith that helped you and helped you take those first steps?
Yeah, well, not growing up in the church, I think I was just really afraid to even approach faith. I was confused about the different religions. So when I pursued those religions, I landed on Christianity because of the history of Jesus, the documentation that he actually lived, which led me to opening up the word. And that was my first step because the word is concrete. And I felt like when I started opening up the Bible, I just came literally like with a childlike faith. Like I was in my 20s, but I had no idea what to expect. And when I started opening it, it started to transform me. And that's when I started to get more curious about, well, who is this God? And I wouldn't say it's like I had this conversation this morning with another pastor, and Jesus's ministry moved at like 3 miles an hour. And I would say like our walk with Christ is like 3 miles an hour. Like it's super slow. It doesn't happen really quick. So somebody that's struggling in their faith, I would say like don't overcomplicate it and just dive in with an open heart and mind. And literally one of my first steps was I just changed my radio station to Christian music. I was listening. I loved country music, like, and I still do. But that was my first step. Is like, hey, I'm just going to dedicate myself to listening to Christian music, and so that was one of my first steps too. I think it's easy to overcomplicate it, and so I think when we approach it like a child going to their father with like a need, that's how I believe that we should approach our faith as well.
Mm. And gosh, it's really interesting that the what you shared, because they're super tangible things, right? We all have Spotify, Apple. Neither of
Right.
them are sponsoring this podcast yet, so I'm not going to dive into their features or anything. But they're accessible for people to listen.
Yeah.
And that's a really small change that people can make. Um, and again, I want people to really, if they haven't heard your episode, to hear your heart a little bit more, because I think, again, you know, I know from my experience, say with health and wellness, right? When I sat across from a dietitian at 330 pounds, I was like,
Mm,
whatever, whatever. Like, I'm not listening to this. There's a sense of like inferiority and
yeah.
obviously like pain that is really inside. And I can imagine that potentially there's people that are like, oh, this guy's a pastor, whatever, right?
Right.
Because that's just the title that you hold, but that's not all who you are. And
Right.
so if you could just give people maybe a snippet as to what led you to that curiosity, or what was that breaking point, so people can really see that like this has not been your whole life, and that there are people that are listening that are potentially struggling in their own pain that could really relate to this.
Yeah. I think, well, the breaking point, and we talked about this in the last episode, is when we were expecting our daughter a month in to Jen and I dating. It just woke me up, and I was like, what kind of man do I want to be? Right. And so that it just got me curious. I'm like, well, I want to lead my daughter well. And I feel like I wouldn't be able to do that. And so I felt like I needed to be saved. Like I needed someone to save me. And I think going back to what you're saying is like when we hold this stigma towards, let's say, a pastor or Christianity, it comes from a place of pride. I think we're naturally like prideful people. And it's okay to say that. Like I am too. Like sometimes I find myself, I'm like, dude, you need to stop. But there's a breaking point in all of our journeys. And I think when we hit those, we run to something. And so I was running to alcohol, I was running to drugs, I was running to be accepted by other people. And when I started changing the direction I was running to, not to get super spiritual, but to get super spiritual. I think of the prodigal son and the story in the Bible where he's going off and doing whatever he wants to do. He literally took his dad's inheritance, which is super strange if you think about that, right? His dad isn't even dead, but he takes the money and he goes out and lives however he wants to. And yet when he notices like, oh man, I really had it made back there, um, he ran home, but what we see is the father running towards him as well. So there is this moment where I was at my lowest point of like going through my addiction phase of pornography and alcohol and drugs, and I was trying to find my fulfillment. I was trying to fill this empty hole, but only God could fill that. And I think I would say we all realize that there's something bigger than us. We just have to be willing to like break our pride down and come in humility uh, to the God who came to save us. Um, and that's hard, right?
Yeah, it is really hard. And again, like I think from my experience, and I bet you Kevin can relate in some of his own experiences of that moment of being lost and feeling void of something, like
Right.
genuinely feeling empty. And both of you know my stories. And Kevin was there for a lot of those things and watched me chase things that would not fulfill me, right? I always say my story is from hoe to hope, and people always laugh. And I'm like, it's true, from hoe to hope. I was looking for love in all the wrong beds because that's
Yeah.
where I thought that I was going to achieve that. And so, again, our stories parallel in just searching for those things. And so I appreciate you sharing that because again, um, that title can sometimes really like almost keep people's walls up. And I
Right.
never want someone's wall to be up as they're listening when they genuinely could feel a shift or just feel hope that
Right.
there is something more to fill them and to heal them. Um, Kev, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
Actually, I had a question for Brandon.
Oh, I love it.
So my dad's side grew up Jewish, my mom's side's Christian, so I never really went to church growing up. I've been maybe 5 times my entire life. Um, if I was to start looking for that in my life, how would you recommend going out picking which churches, which religion, which side of things to go to? Because there's a lot of different choices out there.
There are a ton. Yeah. So one, I would say you need to find, in my opinion, a biblically based church, which how do you find that? Right. So I would obviously, all right, we have access to so many things on the internet, and I would just start searching the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Ask people, ask your friends, where do you see the most life change happening? So if there's a church locally where you see the parking lot is full, people are attending, things are happening, I think you should start there, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it matters like what your background is. If you said a Jewish father,
Yep.
yeah. So, I mean, Christianity stemmed from Judaism. So, Jesus was a Jew, and
Right. Yeah.
so those coincide together, and you just have to find a place that's you feel like God is calling you specifically. Each church is called to something different. Some churches reach the homeless more than other churches. Some folks reach people that have autism more than others. So it matters where you feel like God is calling you. So I would say it's trial and error. There's not going to be one church that's going to fit all of your needs. I think um, we easily can be like church hoppers sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
because we either get hurt by people that are human, and that sucks. But the church is filled with sinful people that make mistakes as well. So I don't think a church can like necessarily save you. Only God can do that. But it comes from knowing like what's going to fit your character best and where is God calling you into. So if that's an Episcopal church, then go there. If they're fueling you and there is fruit that's bearing, meaning like you see a difference in your life, if you're transforming and you're getting hungry for more of God, then that's a sign that maybe that's where you should be.
Mm-hmm. This and that I know shockingly little about churches. So did I just go church to church? Do I have to talk to somebody to go to it? Do I just sign up, or how does it work? Do I just walk in and sit down?
You can walk in and sit down. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I didn't know that was.
Conversation. I'm over here
no,
like,
so
yes, this is
listen,
great.
so I'm part of a Free Methodist church, and we were part of a huge movement that was going against slavery. So we didn't believe that people should be slaves. We didn't believe that you should pay for a pew.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there used to be a time where you had to pay to come in and pay for your seat. And
Yes.
depending on where you sat, and some churches still do this, depending on where you sit is the price of your seat. And so there's like almost a requirement, less of a relationship of friendship. And that's where we have gotten far away from legalism and more closer to the way of Jesus, a relationship with Jesus. And that's what I believe he's calling us to.
All right.
And so when you find that in community, you found a healthy place. Um, so yeah, you can sit in the back of the church and
Yeah.
skip on out before the music ends. Um, but there's still churches that only sing hymnals. And I was like, what the heck is a hymnal? I had no idea. And I'm learning new hymns at this church. But it's like, you got to find what fits your character. There's not going to be like a one size fits all. If you're more of an artsy or charismatic person, maybe like the AG church, the Assemblies of God, is your church that you should attend. But
All right, cool. Just do a little research, I guess.
yeah,
I love that. And I would say too, and Kev, I can share with you a couple of the churches that I've been to in Keene that because I think that like, even if you are someone that goes to church, we could have I could go down a whole conversation about this, but
yeah,
as you enter the church, I consider it a battery pack. It's a recharge. I'm not a Sunday Christian. I don't just go to church and then, Monday through Saturday, I do whatever I want. Today specifically, I needed the Lord, and I spent 2.5 hours between reading and just sitting and existing and going in the Bible. And like that, I mean, I didn't start out like that. Don't get me wrong. It was 15 minutes, but it's because I knew that's what I needed. And so I think, as you are, and whoever's listening, as you're entering that church process, just know that it's part of it. It's not the end all be all. And just because you enter into a church doesn't mean it's going to stay. And so, for those, I think most people know, I was baptized Catholic. I could recite a Catholic mass. I was the best altar server in New Hampshire. I literally could recite a mass. They changed it and then I got super mad, but that's not the point. And I am not a Catholic anymore, but it took that, even moving to North Carolina, I took the time and I researched a couple places. I went on their website. I looked to see like, what rules do they follow? Meaning, are they a biblical church? Like, who do they, you guys, we were talking offline a little bit, like who financially are they responsible to? Like how does their structure look? All those things are things that you kind of like check out before you go. And I will say, like, once you get there, I think the biggest thing to keep in mind for somebody that is looking, whether it's you, Kev, or somebody listening, is like, do you feel peace? Like when you walk in, and do you feel like you could take a deep breath and you just are sitting and existing, like you feel welcomed. All these are very good things. And if you are in the place you are meant to be, that's how you should feel. Right. And so, yes, do your research, but then when you get into that space, just do you feel peace? And do you connect with what the pastor is saying? And I think a lot of times, having a pastor on here, he can say that people will stay at a church whether or not they think what the pastor is saying, and then they get mad and they cause a problem because potentially like they didn't like what they were saying, instead of just taking the ownership upon themselves and saying, hey, this church is not for me. Let me go somewhere else. And so I think there's a lot of ownership on us as individuals when we're pursuing a church to do our research. Do we feel peace? Look at the characteristics. Music matters. Is worship make or break it? For some people, yes. For me, I want to make sure that like what my pastor is saying is like what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. He or she's willing to challenge me and get me to think a little bit differently than I would when I got there. And so, Kev, I can share a couple that I have gone to in your area to start, just to potentially even like while you're searching. Yeah. And for anybody listening, DM or, message me, and I'm happy to chat with you in that process. And, there are times where when I first moved to Wilmington, I went to one church and I was like, I had come from a church plant, which means that I was working as like a handful of people helping to grow the church. It was very small. And then I went to this church, which is super, super large. It's one of the biggest ones here in Wilmington. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is too big. Like, I got to go. And so I went to another church and it was a lot smaller. But then what I found was like, it was a lot of, kids it was a lot of parents and young kids and older individuals. And like, not that I can't hang out with those people, but I wasn't seeing other people like myself. I wasn't seeing a pool of single, mid 20, 30-year-old individuals. And that was at that time that God actually was like, hey, you got to go back to Port City. And so sometimes that will happen where you go and try something, it still doesn't fit. Maybe you go back to the first place. So it's a very fluid experience, in my opinion. Kev, I am excited to talk with you. We're going to go back and forth between obviously faith and fitness, which like, I'm incredibly talented. Okay.
Is that pride thing?
It's fine. It's fine. Just a little healthy amount. It can't be too much. Also, pride versus confidence. I think those are two different things.
Right.
Also,
For sure.
yeah. And I just was reading a post today about like humility and like how like we are told that we have to be humble, but then we all of a sudden like don't grow and achieve because we have to be humble. I'm like, no. You can still be humble and still be proud and still be proud of your work, not prideful.
Yes.
In a bad way.
You can be humble and proud and not be a jerk about it. It's fine.
Right.
At all. Yeah.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct. Okay, so as a former bodybuilder and fitness coach, which you have, years and years of doing that, and now you are a bodybuilding coach, and congratulations on your most recent coaching success. What is the biggest reason why someone chooses to pursue a big goal like bodybuilding? Because there's people listening here who are like, I'm doing couch to 5K. They couldn't even imagine, right, being a bodybuilder. So,
Yeah.
why would someone choose to pursue that? And what are reasons you have found that are the least sustainable? Like the reasons why people choose them are not good enough, basically.
Right. So when we're talking about being an actual bodybuilder, we're talking about competing, getting on stage, and making that change in your life.
Yeah.
That different from the weight room, you just go in to work out to look good, takes an incredible amount of dedication, and most people don't have it, to be honest. The people who do, I see do it, typically it's because they were athletes at one point in their life, and that sport they've played is now no longer available to them. So they find a different way to compete. They're always in the gym, so that kind of just transitions to the stage. But some people just want the challenge. Some people, they were overweight, they lose the weight, they get strong, they want to continue that fitness journey. The people in the reasons people do it, I found are less a hindrance to them to not being able to complete the goal. It's more the personality that person has that limits them. The people that go into it already thinking that they know everything, that they don't really need help. They only need help in this one facet of it. Like I have my nutrition's already on lock. I just need help in the gym. Generally, those people are the ones who don't succeed. So they're not willing to learn from other people and then better themselves in the gym or with the nutrition.
Did you find yourself like at any part of that? Like, do you see yourself in any part of that throughout your journey?
Yeah, of course. I mean, early on when you start doing it, you think you know what you're doing because, even at Franklin Pierce or shortly after that, people weren't doing this in our friend group, right? Nobody was doing that. So when I was there, I was already the person in the best shape or eating the best. So as I continued on, I just thought, well, I already know what I'm doing. I'm all set. And it wasn't until I met my first coach that I realized I have no clue what I'm doing. And this would have been great with the nutritionist you found the last joint episode you did. I was basically eating salad and grilled chicken every single meal, thinking that's what I had to do. Not listening to anybody about fats and carbs and all that other stuff. Now knowing what I know, I was wrecking my body and just not eating the way I should have been to have the best body on stage.
Yeah, because I think there's also in that sense of sustainability, right? I feel and again, I know nothing about bodybuilding except for what I've experienced from you, like a degree separated. There's like a time to push and there's a time to cruise, right? But even in the time to push and cruise, people, I feel like nutritionally have it wrong. Like, you know what I mean? Like they potentially almost like fad diet within bodybuilding, right? Or versus eating well and still being able to sustain health after competing or, in between seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't diet correctly, your body doesn't feel good through the entire process. And I mean, towards the end of a meal prep for a show, your body's not very healthy. The things you're cutting out of your body, the nutrition you're not getting, it's not great for you. And your body hurts. But that's a pretty short 3-week window typically. But if you're doing it wrong, that entire 14, 16, 20-week diet is going to be absolutely miserable for you. And there's no sustainability in that. You're not going to want to compete again. You're not going to be able to do multiple shows in a row, which is really kind of the goal when you bodybuild, is to do a bunch of shows, take time off, do a bunch more shows, take time off. And if you're not doing it right, you're going to at least a fad diet, and then you're going to crash and binge in your meal prep, which just wrecks your entire process.
What would you say, like from your own experience, what was the impact? Like when you made that shift and that coach was like, yo, bro, you've been doing it wrong. What was that impact on your body and potentially even the success in your shows that you saw as a result of those changes?
Yeah. So the guy I worked with, his name was Adam. I met him out in Laconia. We weren't really friends. We didn't talk in the gym. We knew we were both going to compete in an upcoming show. And at one point, I think he just had enough of me in the gym doing silly things and not looking my best. And he kind of pulled me aside and was like, hey, listen, I'll work with you. I'm not going to be an actual coach. Like I'll help you, but I'm not going to dote over you. The first few things he gave me advice in the gym and a diet, it instantly felt better. I had more energy. My body didn't hurt. My joints were feeling better. And that kind of clicked for me that maybe I should listen to other people.
That's really cool. And I also love that. I mean, kudos to the theme of your life, Kevin, is kindness.
Mhm.
I feel like so much so. That was your entire episode, but also just like even that experience. Like, Adam owed you nothing. Like he owed you nothing, but yet his like just kindness of like, hey, this guy is literally, I'm just watching you deplete and you could be better. And the
Right.
courage to say, because let's be honest, like to talk to somebody in a gym, especially telling them, hey, I think you're doing it wrong. It's not
Yeah,
always,
it's hard to do, right? You're always told, don't be that guy in the gym. Don't be the guy that walks up and offers unsolicited advice.
yeah. Yeah. And then Adam did it. And he,
Did it.
again, he did it. And it's interesting because I mean, maybe I could think back and like, of the time, like between like before when you were doing it. Cause like you were just being very, to air out some laundry. Kev was that guy in the gym that was like, I'm going and I'm serious. And like, we were all like in our 20s, like drinking and like all the hanging out. And he's like, no, I'm committed. And then like, so I love that even after that, you were like humbled in the sense of like, okay, no, there could be more. And that, what you were doing was not sustainable.
And it's funny you say that because since I've been hurt and not really been able to have that lifestyle anymore, I kind of realized that when I was doing that in my early 20s, that in itself isn't sustainable. That mentality of I'm always going to be 100% on in the gym and diet, it just doesn't work. You miss out on so much in life and friends, and you're able to take breaks from this and be just fine.
Yeah.
One day of healthy eating isn't going to make you in shape, just like a day of bad eating won't wreck your entire diet. And I wish I had known that in my early 20s and not missed out on so much with my friends and family.
Well, according to our podcast, I did give you a milkshake. So there was.
Yes, you did. You made me try your milkshake.
So at some point when we were in our 20s, you at least had something.
It was under duress. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah, I don't even, Brandon, I literally don't even remember it at all. Like he told me the story and I was like embarrassed because I was like, I didn't what? This is awkward. But I think there's a lot of people that are listening that maybe aren't bodybuilders, right? Let's be straight up, right? That's
Yes.
that's the 1% of fitness that are just feeling gross or wanting to get healthy for a goal, or maybe they're running a marathon or they want to hike a certain thing. And I think what you said is really key, which is like, and it complements exactly what Amanda and Sarah said in this, in the previous sustainability episode is like, you have to live your life. Like life is meant to be lived, and also to be enjoyed. And we were really speaking from the narrative of food, right? And that commitment. But here we're talking about fitness, we're talking about health. And so, I was recently talking to somebody, one of my friends who's like has this goal to stay in shape. And I really believe in one day a week should be a day of rest. I believe that spiritually, I believe that physically, but resting doesn't mean you lay on the couch. Resting could be instead of going to the gym, going for a lovely walk. You're still being active, you're still engaging, but you're not necessarily pushing your body to a way that is, another day of extreme fitness.
Yeah.
And
we call that recovery. And it gives just that day to do something they want to do while still being active, while just feel like a workout. Like you said, walk on the dog, take a hike, something active other than just sitting on your couch.
Yeah. Yeah. Brandon, is there anything that you want to add or things that are coming to you, especially being a personal trainer?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of correlation. I'm listening to him, and it brings me back to when I was doing personal training, and just the dedication of the people really matters where the results are going to be. And I would say that's the same for faith, right? So like you have the people that are dedicated to bodybuilding, you have the people that have goals, they have ambition. They're going to be the ones that have the most success. But it takes them, steps and guidance and humility to listen to you as a coach, Kevin.
Right.
And so it's the same with faith. It's like, man, we have to be humble. We have to be open. Our hearts need to be ready, and listen to advice, not thinking that we know everything, but that we're willing to listen to guidance and teachers. But yeah, I remember some of my clients, man, and they would come in with these crazy goals, but they didn't have, the ambition or the dedication and discipline to actually take it from the gym to take it home.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm kind of dealing with that right now. My main client I have, his name's Joel. I work with him actually. We went from day one together, having never competed, to now being a pro bodybuilder and placing third at Worlds a few months ago. in about 2 years, and he's fully dedicated. He was a pro fighter before, so he knows how to lock in diet. No complaints. I took on a client 2 days ago who's going to be the exact opposite. And it's unfortunate to say, but he's already trying to make excuses and pull things in and out of the meal plan. It's just irritating. And I'm going to work him as long as he wants to, but he's not going to see the results he wants because of that dedication is just not going to be there.
Right. And that's the thing is like when coaching, with being a pastor, like there's only so much that you can do for people. They have to be willing to like take it upon themselves to pursue it. Like, if he sees you for an hour in a session, he has to apply that like 24/7, know? And same with when somebody comes here, it's like, I can preach the best sermon, or maybe it's a bunch of crap. But they have to be willing to like find the truth and find the details in order for transformation to happen. It's not just going to like be there at the drop of a hat. You can't.
I can't do it all for you.
Yeah, you can't win third place. What'd you say, in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's that's a certain type of personality and discipline that takes that. So
I can give him a plan for 6 weeks. I know every minute of that plan is going to be followed. And if he has an issue, he reaches out, we fix it together. Whereas someone else may just try to circumvent it and pick their own solution to it, and it's going to be completely wrong.
Yeah. I think that it is, I hate when I say this because it's so simple, but it's also so simple. It's a decision, right?
Yeah.
It's deciding like that your goals, your dreams are worth it, no matter how many times you stumble or how many times you fall down or how many times, and I think for the two of you and what you do, both coaching, but in a spiritual space and a fitness space, there's also an element of trust that you have earned because you have done those things, right? And so I think oftentimes, especially right now, we have coaches that are popping up for all these different categories, doing all these different things. And that's amazing. I love that. But I always am very weary of wondering, okay, well, what did you do to get there? Like, were you disciplined? And like, are you modeling to your clients, to your people, what that means to be disciplined and to have sustainable? And it starts small. And Brandon, I'm going to ask you a question in a second, but like, I've been talking about this the past week. My sister will get so mad because we'll be hanging out, having dinner, and I like do the dishes right after. And I had this epiphany this week because my journey, as you both know, it's been a 10-year journey of fitness and health and mental, spiritual, all the things. And at some point along the way, my discipline wasn't just based on discipline. It was decisions that were going to impact my future self. And so I think that I do a lot of the things that I do now, not because I like to do them, but because my future self is going to thank me. Right. And it starts as simply as the dishwasher, right? Like if you put the dish in the dishwasher the night before and run the dishwasher, your morning self is going to be grateful for you because you could pull out a cup, right?
That's the truth right there.
Right. Or if
you coffee at night. Yeah. Same thing.
Right.
Exactly. If you, run your laundry while you're doing stuff around the house and you have a big day the next day, your future self's going to thank you because you don't have to fold it. But it's done. Right. I'm a firm believer that sleeping next to your laundry is totally acceptable for at least 72 hours. After that, please fold it clean.
If you ever have kids, it sits there longer, just so you know.
There we go. Yeah. Okay. So at least a minimum, depending on your lifestyle, 72 hours or more, depending on if you've got kids.
Don't feel any guilt from that, guys.
No guilt. It's nothing that you need to achieve or succeed in. But yeah, and again, it starts with, if you, scripture says, if you can handle little things in Matthew, you can handle big things. And we're not just talking about money. We're talking about time. We're talking about success. We're talking about your growth, right? And so Kev, you're talking about Joel, like he can handle the success and what comes from worlds because he's willing to do it when nobody is looking. He's willing to go and be at the gym consistently and eat consistently. And we so often want the end result. We want to be saved. We want to be physically fit. We want to have the freedom that God gives. We want to have the flexibility of just being active and the benefits that come from that. But yet we're not willing to put the work in. So Brandon, is there a routine that you would suggest that can help someone sustain practicing their faith, right? We already talked about some of those beginning steps. And obviously you shared with Kevin, like how to find that church, but like, What is it?
Yeah.
What is something you can suggest to sustain that daily?
Yeah. So it matters where you're at in a season of life. Approach it with zero guilt and shame. So I believe that doesn't come from God, right? So we have to establish, where are you at? Do you have kids? Are you a college student? Are you someone that's in high school, where you have maybe one job, a part-time job? Like, there's so many different ways that you could spend time with the Lord. But so a spiritual practice would be, one, praying to God. The next would be opening up the Bible and just exploring more of it. And the Bible can be a very intimidating place, especially in the Old Testament, where you're like, why the heck did God just eliminate all these people? Um, and so Bible reading, and then, I would say we have to be careful with like anything else after this, depending on, again, your dedication. But the Lord said to keep the Sabbath holy. And so you mentioned this a little bit, but that's part of my routine, is that I believe if God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh, and so if you take 5 seconds and look outside at the detail and the intricacy of what he created, even looking at our own selves in the mirror, we see that he spent time and he valued it. He said that it was very good. And so I believe if he can do that in 6 and rest on the seventh, I can get all my work done in 6 and rest on the seventh. And by resting, yes, it's not sitting on the couch. It's finding delight and abiding in the Lord. And so Sabbath is a true way to like fight the grain of society. Like, I don't. A lot of people know about the Jesus fish, and it represents the salmon that swims against the current, right, up against the current. And so that's very different than our culture. So Sabbath is a huge one. And then fasting is another one. When you fast and you sacrifice something to be closer to the Lord, to like take away the things that you desire, and then desire the things of God. You're displaying to Him like, hey, I don't understand this fully, but I'm gonna fast. And so I would say fasting, if you're like, man, I love food, you don't have to tell me anything. I absolutely love food. We were just at Ruby Tuesdays and I got the monster burger. It was delicious. Um, but so when we fast, it's like it can start from, hey, I'm gonna fast for my morning breakfast, and then I'm gonna pick it up at lunch and dinner. So again, it doesn't have to look the same, but these spiritual practices are really key. And then the last one is meditation. And now I'm not talking about meditation with, the, what are they? The bowls where they make all the
The
noise. I don't
sound
know.
bath.
Yeah, or yeah, sound bath. Like, it's like meditating and just finding peace. So I think of the verse where God says that He will lead us beside the still water, and that's the kind of like awe and wonder that we should be in when we meditate. It's getting rid of the busyness of our minds, and we start to not empty them, which other religions would teach you to empty yourself. It's actually emptying the things of the world and then fulfilling yourself with the things of God. And so that could be like writing in a journal. That could be praying to Him while you're meditating. Or it could just be like, okay, I'm going to sit in my closet, turn off the light, and just be. And I think that those are key spiritual practices that I've done in my own life that I've seen results of. And then the next one is, I would say, so meditating wasn't the last one, but while we're kind of talking about fitness as well, it's like honoring your body as the temple. So we also see that in God's word, that our body is the temple. And so anything that is in a temple, whether you're talking about a church or a temple in Jerusalem, it's like you don't bring anything unholy in there. So why are we bringing things that are unholy or unhealthy into our own bodies? So I think being aware of how much you honor yourself, if you have a mindset of like, man, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm I'm not enough. Like, those are all things that God doesn't see you as. And so I think it's important to honor yourself, and when you look in the mirror, to see that are beautifully and wonderfully made, and therefore treat yourself as such.
Yeah. Wow. You guys, that was your sermon for the day. Uh, and there's so many things that you shared, and I think if you are like, oh my gosh, where do you start? Pick one, right, and then come back to
Yeah.
this segment, and then add
Yeah.
another, right? Whether it's fitness or faith, if you do all of them at the same time, you probably won't sustain that, right? So picking
Right.
one thing and adding
Exactly.
one more at
Yep.
a time. And
Yeah.
as I've grown in my spiritual journey, there's so many things that you share that I was like, oh my, I thought back to my first time. Like my first time fasting was on Palm Sunday, and I
Yeah.
read Luke. And fasting at that time for me was fasting food. And again, to kind of go a little bit deeper, it's the premise of fasting, you guys, is not to deprive; it's to clear space, right?
Hmm.
And it's to safely, like if you have pre-existing medical conditions, if you like, please, like, don't do anything that
Yep.
isn't right for your body. But it is removing things. And so for me, I fasted for that day, and I remember reading part of Luke where the landowner lied and got turned into worms, right? That's the short story. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I have this gluten-free Oreo, God is going to turn me into a worm. It's like I was mortified, right? So I literally did not eat that gluten-free Oreo. Now, fast forward, I've learned a lot more about that.
Yeah.
But I think fasting in current times, as it relates to our day to day, sometimes can be more powerful with other things. And so, whether
Yeah.
it's movies, TV, social media, our phones, that is a form of fasting because those things are taking up space. And when you think about, okay, you get home from your long day at work or you get up in the morning, what's your first thing that you do? For me, it's quiet time with the Lord because the world stops. I don't check my
Yeah.
phone, even if it is 20 or 30 minutes some days. Today was a very different, extreme for me, but like 20 or 30 minutes. But this took a lot of time because what was my routine previously? Well, it
Yeah.
was getting up. I did a lot of personal growth, but potentially turning on the news, checking your email, checking your phone, right? And so what Brandon is saying is when you choose those things, potentially think about, are those the things that you need to temporarily set aside for that time
Yeah.
to create that space? And sometimes we feel like if we step into the world and we take things into our own hands, it'll work because we cannot fathom letting go control and redirecting our time and energy towards God to potentially for 30 minutes, how much more powerful that can be. And so as it
Yeah.
relates to fasting, right? As it relates to, the sustainable practices, it's doing one little thing, right? And
Right.
making those small changes. And like, I love that you said about the closet, like you're a parent. Sometimes the closet is the only place,
Or the
right?
bathroom.
Or the
Yeah.
bathroom,
It's
right?
like, take an extra long one.
That's
It's
it.
not gonna hurt.
It's not
Yeah.
going to hurt.
I'm living with two kids at the first time in my life now, an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. They're great, but it's a culture shock with how crazy
Oh
it is
yeah.
sometimes. I'll get out and walk my dog 3 times a day just for fun. I love them, but it's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the days also runs twice a day. The laundry's always going. It's a whole thing now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again,
And so to add on to that, Brittany, is like because it could seem overwhelming if like you step into faith or fitness and say, well, hey, I have this goal. I want to be like a bikini model, or I want to be closer to God. Those are big things, but you can make progress towards both of those, but it takes, I would say, roots first, right? So I'm actually teaching on this book. It's called God in My Everything by Ken Shigematsu. And it talks about like our practice, our way of life with God in My Everything is like a trellis, and how the plant will grow up the trellis, but first you need to be rooted. And so the 3 roots are prayer, Sabbath, and sacred reading, meaning reading the Bible. So like if I was to start anywhere, those would be the first 3. Um, because Sabbath is what you're talking about. It's like you are resting, and that's gonna look different. So
Yeah.
if you're like, hey, I'm not really sensing any result from prayer, I totally get that because I wasn't in the beginning as well. But I saw a habit that I was creating, a rhythm of my life that really started to change and transform what I prioritized. And so now my view is very different of like the world and media and social media and So those all take time to like see through, I would say, the eyes of God, not fully, but partially, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And people will say to me often, like, oh my gosh, you pray so well. And I'm like, girl, you should have heard me 3 years ago. Cause it was basically like, hi, God, it's me. Can you make this happen? Thanks. Like it was
Yeah.
not, and so I think there's a lot of people out there being like, how do you pray? And it's literally
Hmm.
that. Like
Sure.
we have to stop thinking that God is such like a performance. It's not.
Right.
Literally,
Right.
I am the best daughter. Why? Because I complain the crap to God. Like I'm like, I'm tired. I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this. And we feel like if we're not going to him in that way, that we're like, that's not what God is there for. No, no, no.
Right.
God is there for that. And so if you're frustrated and you're like, gosh, I just need a break, that's all you have to say, right? That's it. Like,
Yeah.
God, like help give me a break, right? Help give me a
Yeah.
release. Help me find a way. So don't overcomplicate it. You don't have to wait to be eating to pray. In fact, I was just talking about this with one of the executive director of the nonprofit I work on. And we admitted like, I get a little weird sometimes because I pray all the time. I pray in the car, in the shower, in the bathroom, at the stove. Like I'll be driving by somebody and I can immediately tell like, ooh, they need prayer because however they're treating me on the road, something is going on that I don't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
about. But we often think that the only time to pray is like at our meal. And so sometimes I
Right.
actually don't pray at my meal because I'm like, God, we've been talking all day. Like it's been literally
Hmm.
like a walkie-talkie prayer conversation. And so
Yeah.
I think it's just taking a step. It's starting. It's figuring out like, how does this work for you? And if I can also leave this and we're going to transition to Kevin is like, don't read the Old Testament yet. You've
Don't
never,
start there.
yeah,
Yeah.
you've never read the Bible. I am doing this really cool thing. If you've ever, and Kev, this would actually be like, maybe not like right now, but this is a really fun thing. Brandon, you should definitely do this. I'm reading John Maxwell's book, Walking with Giants.
Okay.
And that's not the title. I'm messing it up. But basically, they're a handful of biblical characters. So the story is they're running around a track. Each of these characters comes around and gives wisdom and advice based on their biblical story. Wicked cool, right? Well, Brittany 2.0 is like, well, let me go into the Bible and like read their story. So my girl Esther, love her, went back in there. Noah, I went back into the book and I'm reading about Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. And you guys, if we think that the Bible was like all put together, these brothers have problems. And like, it
Yeah.
is insane. And if I hadn't read all the New Testament and understood Jesus and understood love from God, not fear,
Right.
not what Western civilization has created, I would have been like, oh, this is insane. But because I have that understanding, I can look at these three men, Jacob, Isaac, and Abraham, be like, well, you're human. You made
Yep.
mistakes. Also, this is what God said. This is what you did with your two hands. But you guys, that's taken 3 years of a lot of different understanding. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I would highly encourage Luke, Mark, Matthew, John. One of those four is a really great
Yeah.
place to start. And what we also forget sometimes when it comes to reading the Bible is it's a living, breathing thing. So interesting enough, Kev, like some of the differences you're going to find from like your dad's side of Jewish upbringing versus Christian is that from the Jewish faith, like Jesus has not come back yet. So they do not live with the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is part of the Trinity. It's what we were given as a result of Jesus's death on the cross. And
Mm.
so, that's why that living temple is a really big deal, right? Because we are that living where in biblical times, the temple was a physical thing because Jesus hadn't come as it relates to what we believe as Gentiles, as Christians. And so, I just want to encourage everybody to, really truthfully, like be open to these first, the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, right? Because there's going to be so much you don't understand, but also just know that the Holy Spirit will work through those things. You may not understand, so pause, take notes, ask questions, but just know
Right.
that the Holy Spirit is working through that word, and you may actually be pondering another question, or you may find yourself feeling more clarity. That's not a
Hmm.
coincidence, right? That is the power of the Bible. So, yeah, all good things. As it relates to you, Kev, again, we've been talking about the sustainability, right, with Brandon and like, what does that look like? So,
Mm.
gym, not just bodybuilding, right? But the gym, period. Like Planet Fitness, the judgment free zone, it's full of judgment. It's a lie. But the gym and fitness can be scary and foreign, right? Especially if you're a female. And even sometimes for men too. Like it's a very foreign place. So whether someone wants to be a bodybuilder or just strengthen their muscles and just feel like strong within and healthy, what advice would you share with them to sustain maybe tips or tricks and help them to commit to their goal?
Yeah, Brandon covered this really well. He said it much more eloquently than I'm going to, but take baby steps. If you try to go in the gym and copy the same workouts you see Arnold doing on the internet, you're never going to last. Start 2-3 days a week and go slow. Your body's going to hurt. It's going to feel awful. And that's going to cause you to stop if you go too hard. And the second best thing you can do when you go to a gym, if you're not there with people that you know and trust, make friends. Just start talking to people. As hard as it is, talk to the guy next to you on the bench. Most people in the gym want to help. They want to be social within the time frame of working out, but they want to talk to you. Especially if you compliment them on how they look or what they're doing. It's going to pique their interest because most people who go to the gym are doing because they want to look good or they want to feel good. So if you give them that confidence from you to them, they're going to want to talk to you even more. Going to the gym on your own all the time, unless you're experienced, is very difficult. So the only way to really sustain it is to have somebody there with you to push you and to bounce questions off of and work with.
And how would you say, like, I know that Brandon talked about like shame and guilt and to rid yourself, but like, how would you help someone navigate that? Even like the shame and guilt of maybe like in New England, it snowed this past couple days, right? And so you maybe don't have access to your normal stuff. Like, how would you guide someone if they are constantly feeling shame and guilt for maybe not committing or life happening?
Yeah, missing days or cutting your workout short. It's kind of the same thing as with the diet. One workout's not going to turn you into a bodybuilder. Missing one day is not going to record progress you've made. It takes something like the 21 days to really start activating your muscles to where they just lose the mass you've gained.
Yeah.
So if you take a week off, it's not going to hurt you. And people have this misconception they have to go every single day because that's what they see like on the internet. That these people on YouTube are nonstop every day is their entire life. And that's really not sustainable for 99% of the population. We have to go to work. We have kids. Things come up. The car won't start. It snows. If you can't get to the gym, do something at home. Do anything that you can do just to feel active. Just that release of endorphins from being active that's going to help solve that problem of feeling bad about yourself.
I can, when I think about this for my own self, I can definitely feel a difference. And I don't know who I was talking to recently of like, me now and my commitment to, protecting my mind. A lot of people now I think are being more open and vocal about going to the gym as it relates to mental health, not as it relates to seeing results physically, because they believe and they see what their body's doing on the inside, which is helping endorphins and, our gut health and things like that. But there's this moment, it's some part of your journey where you get to a place and it switches from feeling like a chore to you feel joy and you feel excitement about going and pursuing that. What was that like for you? And how would you encourage someone to get to that place?
Yeah. So for me, I mean, my job can be pretty stressful some days, right? I see some bad things and got to find a way to unwind. And it was that comes off and we'd have a full gym at work. So I could take that off and walk 2 rooms over and now I'm in a nice, quiet, private gym. And there's a chance to just unwind and get a workout and kind of be with my own thoughts. And that was really awesome for me to be able to have that. What was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
Just how would you help someone like get to that place, right? Because it doesn't just happen overnight.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, that's just going to come with being comfortable in the gym. It has to be a place where you go in feeling confident, knowing what you're going to do. And maybe that comes from pre-writing out your workouts. So let's say you get in there, you don't have to think about it. It's one less thing you can turn your brain off. Go in there, just follow your plan for an hour. And then before you know it, that time's up and you've enjoyed the last hour of your life rather than stressing about what you're going to do, what kind of weight, what kind of reps.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you both would probably second this, but celebrate. Would you say that that's a huge part of that fitness journey as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you see that a lot now with social media. People are posting selfies of themselves. And I don't have any social media. I don't have Snapchat, I don't have anything. So I don't really see it much anymore. But people are posting pictures in the locker rooms or in the mirrors, just finish the workout or whatever they're putting with it. And that's the best way I think you can do that. Show people what you've been doing and be proud of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like it's that psychology behind it, right? Of like, if you're disciplined and you're committing, right? And again, what are you doing for your future self, right? Like you may not love doing it. Like I didn't, I've been really navigating getting up early. I know I 5:30 a.m. girl. Like I believe that I have it in me. And so
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur though, versus like working a 9 to 5, that comes strictly from within. And so it's a rebirth. You know, years ago I would get up at 6 a.m. because I wanted to grow personally. Now I've gotten to this place where I've gotten to a level of personal growth that motivation isn't there anymore. So I'm like refining myself in this process. But
Mm.
you know, there is that sense of like, once you get to that place and like that celebration and getting excited, but also that commitment of your future self. And like when I got up at 6 a.m., not because I necessarily loved it, but I was like, I know that I'm going to love after having quiet time that I can get started with the day. And it really didn't take up the whole morning. Right. Same thing with the gym. Like when you go to the gym, your future self is going to feel grateful the next day. Right. Or maybe I don't know. I always love God incidences, as Brandon calls them, and breadcrumbs. And sometimes we don't even know what's about to happen next. And you going to the gym or you going for a walk could prepare you for a conversation you're going to have with your kids or your spouse, or potentially prepare you so you don't have an argument with your spouse or with a coworker. And so I think if we can really dive into fitness and faith as it relates to our well-being and not just those results all the time, and just being proud and celebrate, it makes a huge difference in how we
Yeah.
sustain, right? And pick it
Yeah,
back up.
I mean, the gym is where I met my local friends here. When I got here, 12 years ago, I didn't have any friends in Keene. I didn't go to bars. I didn't go out and drink. So I met all of my friends at the gym.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to live here and be social with people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, yeah. And there's so many cool things now, I would say. Like there's the gym, there's bar, there's HIIT, there's Pilates, there's yoga. I mean, there's really kind of, to call everybody up, there's really no excuse unless you have a pre-medical condition or a physical condition on which you cannot work out, that you can't find something that works for
Right.
you.
Right.
There's even
Yeah,
walk
absolutely.
clubs, right? There are
Yeah.
small businesses. There's one small business that I know based out of in Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware, that is a coffee shop that started a nonprofit to empower the women in the community, and like they all get together and just walk, right? Like
Yeah.
there's just your time.
That's
That's all
awesome.
that's needed, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a run club here in Wilmington, and they pop around to different coffee shops and they support them after their run. So if you desire it, you'll find it. And there's really no excuse to put yourself out there like that, because it's not like it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago for us, where it was just a gym and maybe a workout video. People are really getting creative and creating community around fitness, right? Around working out together and being successful together in the gym, or just, as it relates to fitness itself. Brandon, last question for you. What held you back from pursuing a relationship with God sooner? And how can that help someone who's listening?
Well, I was confused at like, was God even real? I grew up like kind of spiritual, quote unquote, but I didn't really know. Like, is this something that I can count on? Is this worth my time? I was influenced, at the public school. They're not teaching any of that stuff. So um I didn't really have a mentor or a community of people. And so that really, I think influence is everything. And so when you put yourself into a healthy community, like you're saying, there's a bunch of different options for fitness and stuff. And the same goes for church. Like you need to find a community that have like-mindedness, right? Like you do have to find somebody that's willing to invest and love on you and be kind and gracious. And so I think the reason why I was held back is one, I didn't have that, but I was just very selfish. I thought that I was very conceited as well. Like behind closed doors, I was super self-conscious at the same time. Um, but I just wasn't willing to like really dedicate myself, you know? And so I think there's fear involved in that as well. So honestly, I would tell somebody to take a leap of faith, like with whatever you're deciding to do, whether it's like your first time, going to a church, like, or your first time in the gym. You got to take a move. And if you don't, then there's there's going to be the same results that you've just kept getting. And that's not much, right? So like we have this void or this unhappiness in us, but yet we long for certain things, and one of those things is we long for community. And I think that was a big part even in the gym, like when I started going and I had clients, like that was my community. Then when I started pursuing ministry, the church was my community, and so those things really transformed my view of people and my purpose as well on like with my time here on earth. So
That's super cool. And also, um, I think really relatable. I think there's probably a lot of people listening who are like, "Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll go
yeah,
next
yeah,
Sunday."
right,
Oh, there's a snow day. Oh, okay. Well, let's reschedule. We'll pick another class on that
yeah,
Thursday. We're all, none of us, the three of us here on this uh, episode are not saying it because we haven't done it. Like
right.
it's because we've done it enough, yet pursued the end result enough that we've had success in each of those things, right? We've had
And
success.
we haven't reached, none of us have reached the level that we've even strived for. Like, yeah, sure, might have reached goals, but we're not reaching perfection. And I think that it people get discouraged when they hear a pastor talk from the platform and be like, man, that dude's got it all together. The thing is, we don't.
Mhm.
Like, we're human and we mess up. And I think the authenticity is great to have. Um, but we need to realize like you just need to step forward into something new. If you're tired of what you're either looking at or experiencing, like this emptiness, we had a pastor that would say, nothing changes until something changes. And I love that, because if you're just continuing on the same track and you're complaining about the same things, you're going to get the same results.
Yeah. And even as it relates to faith and your body, it's like, I love this. One of my best friends has this saying, and it's like, and I tweaked it a little bit. So I say, lift your foot and let God bless its placement. And your body's the same way. Like if
Yeah,
you start moving and doing something, your body's going to
yeah,
honor you because it was meant to do those things. Like it's
right,
meant to be active and sustain, muscle memory and like working out and your body needs it. Like there's so much science behind that. And the same thing with your faith is like God is going to honor those decisions that you make to take your first step in a church or your first prayer, right? And I think we get
yeah,
really afraid of not only what's going to happen after, but also like how do I do it? And again, just taking that step, and yes, like that commitment to just doing it. It doesn't matter how
right,
ugly, both these guys here have spent years in the gym. And I bet you if they look back and they go into the deep, 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 like, parts of their brain is like the first time I ever entered a gym or the first time I coached somebody, or the first time I tried to tell somebody like it probably was not even worthy to be repeated. But like it
yeah,
started somewhere, it
right,
started somewhere. And so I think, as it relates to faith, just like you said, just taking that step. And no matter what that is, I mean, you got so many tips from Brandon today, on the whys of his journey. And, you can hear more of that in detail in his episode. But also just feeling like, guess what? Like we haven't arrived. None of us arrive,
right,
like Kevin's achieved incredible things as a bodybuilder, but he hasn't arrived yet because now there's coaching and now there's training the next group and developing the next level of bodybuilders. He's not done yet. Brandon's not done yet in his faith journey of continue to grow and develop people and walk alongside them. I'm not done yet. They're like even when you get to a place where you've met that goal, and I love that you said that, Brandon, like you're not done. And I think what's really beautiful when you step into a space of like, okay, I've reached this level. What's next? And of course, I'm a
yeah,
documentary junkie and I'm watching Aaron Rodgers' documentary on Sigma and just like where he got to after winning the 2011 Super Bowl. He had nothing else. Like, where do you go when you've reached the thing you've achieved for? And so
mm,
I feel like anybody listening, like, just know once you get to that goal, it doesn't end. We can't stop there. And
right,
this poor guy, I mean, poor is relative, but like, he's spending years and years searching for a purpose because he reached the thing he set out to reach. And so whether it is to become a bodybuilder, and I mean, I know, Kev, for you, and we're going to go to you next, like you have had to reshape your goals because where you decided to go and pursue to go did not work. And so, you suffered an injury, which ended your bodybuilding career. And it was an extremely out of the blue, never expected, tragic injury. Which I am going to prophetically say led you to the most beautiful season of your life. I would say that it's also led you to your beautiful girlfriend and this future self. So, I mean, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And that's me being years ahead of when it happened. But you suffered this injury. What has been the most challenging lesson that you learned that others should know? Because again, your goal was to be a professional bodybuilder, full stop. That was it.
Yeah, that was the goal. Just a quick story here. I had transitioned to powerlifting from bodybuilding. I was setting a PR number for my upcoming meet, and it was a 350 single bench press. I hit the rep just fine. I thought I'll add 5 pounds, see if I get up a little bit more. And when I did that, I tore my right pec and both triceps. Because of the way it tore, meaning the tendon didn't rip, just the muscle did, it couldn't be fixed. So I have a big gap running here now with no muscle. It's all crushed over towards the sternum. So that pretty much eliminated any ability to do any pressing movements for me. So having that happen, I'm able to do the gym anymore. My bodybuilding powerlifting days are over. And that transitioned to me still wanting to be in that community to some degree. I spent a long time not knowing how to do that. And I finally got hooked up with a guy who wanted to compete. And that's so I could help him, knowing that I had done all my own programming. And that's kind of where it kicked off. And I started to be able to work with people and help them in the gym and better them instead of bettering myself.
Mm-hmm.
Brittany, I'm sorry again. What was the question?
No, that's honestly, I'm just like sitting here like, tell me more.
Yeah.
I guess I would say like, the question was, what was the most challenging lesson that you've learned as a result of that others should know?
That you're going to fail. I mean, the first few times I worked with people, it didn't go well. I tried to do what I've done for my own body, meal-wise plan and workout plans. It's a learning curve. Whenever you start something new, even if it's within the field you're already in, you're going to struggle. It's going to be hard to get where you want to be. That's why I tell people when I work with them, I'm not a professional at this. I don't have a degree and I didn't go to school for this. I worked with myself and a few people that have worked. So I'll try the same thing with you and we'll adjust it until we find something that works. So I want to put that out there right away that I'm not going to fix you the first try. And not that he's fixing, but I'm not going to, the goals might take a minute to get to. So that's been my biggest challenge is accepting that I'm not going to be able to be perfect with it the first time through. Because people put their faith in me because they're going to be on stage in front of a couple hundred people wearing next to no clothing. And if they're not going to look the best they can, that's going to be on me. And that's incredibly nerve wracking to know that if I mess up, it's going to be on them when they're on stage.
Yes. Yeah. First off, thank you for sharing that because that's really vulnerable, right? And that's real. And that's genuinely a burden, I think, that the three of us in our own lanes take on in different ways. Someone comes to you, Kevin, says, this is what I desire. And you're like, holy crap. Okay, yeah, let's go. Let's figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But that end result, that weighs on you. Brandon has somebody walk into the church and says, hey, I need help with this. And Brandon's like, okay, all right, God, we gotta do this together. People will come in and give me people, I no longer business advise. I ended that last year, but people would come to me with their dreams and their visions and to like create this business. And there's this sense of, this responsibility that like, oh my gosh, like if I mess up. And, I will say something that I have learned in my years of coaching, and I think we also touched on it earlier, is taking that pressure off of myself, because I also realized that like there is equal pressure and responsibility on the person that is involved with me in that moment. Right. And so I think when you're a coach, whether it's in fitness, faith, business, you inherently take that on. But the reality is there's someone else in that with you. And like you were talking about Joel, kind of like his commitment, right? And you probably don't even feel that heaviness with him because you feel not only is he give and taking, but it's symbiotic and there's a fluid movement. And so that there's not that necessarily that heaviness that goes with it because he's taken responsibility for his part in it. And Brandon, you obviously have experiences with people that have come into your office and they're taking responsibility for their actions and their need for help. And same with me. And so the clients that I've had that I've loved to work with and have had the most success are the clients that recognize, okay, I'm in this. This is where I need to go. I'm going to do my part, and and then again, I do mine. And so I think that's a really powerful element too, is that you are an active participant in whatever you're choosing, faith, fitness, um, either one. I want to wrap up with lifestyle questions, but do either of you have anything you want to add before we wrap up?
Back to that last point we were talking about, you got to be realistic as well in what you can accomplish. I can't have someone come to me who doesn't go to the gym and say, hey, I want to compete in 16 weeks. You have to be comfortable telling somebody, I can't do that for you. We can do it down the road, but right now that's not your journey. That's not what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I don't think you're ready to get on stage. I don't think you're ready for this movement in your life. It's you have to be able to deliver bad news if you're going to be in these roles.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And the honest too, I think also is an element of that. There are times where I told entrepreneurs what they didn't want to hear, but in the same vein, the next day I was believing bigger when they couldn't believe in themselves. Right. So it takes both. And I'm looking at the two of you on the screen being like, gosh, like you both make the most perfect balance of like what you need when you coach someone, right? And what you do and your commitment to, the success in your lives. It's incredible. Brandon, do you have anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I mean, I think this has been fantastic. And yeah, I mean, I've been out of the fitness game for a bit. I've been taking care of my body with like eating and stuff, but it was a good reminder today, Kevin, that I need to get back in the game.
Yeah, it's so easy to fall out of it once you fall out. Just go about your life.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yep.
So Kev, lifestyle question for you as it relates to this conversation. What is your go-to fitness routine that you share with someone, or that you even do when you can't go to the gym or you don't have access, right? Because that's the reality.
Yeah. I typically tell people you can't get real weights, or go to the gym. It's full body weight circuit stuff. If you have a chair or a bench, you can do step ups. You can do, lunges on it. You can do walking lunges, push ups, sit ups. If you have a way to do pull ups, that's great. Just string together one exercise per muscle group if you can, and hit it, 10 times in a row. Or say, I'm going to do it for 15 minutes straight and try not to take a break in between until that 15 minutes is up. Just something to have your body constantly under tension for an amount of time is going to be great. Can't get in the weight room.
Incredible. Yeah. And again, all those things you have access to, because that's also something that's I have a heart for these days, is recognizing that, while I have this beautiful podcast and sharing all these things, like I recognize there are some people who don't have money to go to the gym, or just don't have access. And I want to help to make sure that those people that have the opportunity to listen cannot feel excluded from that, and feel like, okay, you can do it.
And anything in your house could be used. Grab a box of books or a gallon of water, something to add a little bit of resistance to whatever you're doing. It doesn't have to be a weight. It doesn't have to be a plate or a bar.
Amazing. Yeah, exactly. I remember back in the day, like Weight Watchers at 13, which that's a whole other conversation. Oh gosh, that it was like, grab a can from your pantry and can it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Put your buddy on your back and walk around, piggyback rides or something, just something.
There you go. I love that. Brandon, I also had no idea that you were going to have such an emphasis in that first step around music. And I love that I asked this question, but I didn't even know that you were going to feel passionately about changing your radio station as one of the first things that you did. And gosh, God is good. The Holy Spirit, man, is really making sure we're aligned. What is a song that someone should listen to today to give them hope?
Oh man, there is an arsenal. But one of the recent songs that I've heard is "The Lord Will Provide," and I believe it's by Passion. So it's a newer song, but it basically just talks about how the Lord is going to provide for you in every season. That no matter where you're at, be encouraged, because you have a helper, you have a savior, you have someone that is there for you. So if you're feeling discouraged or let down, know that that's not coming from the Father in heaven. It's coming from either yourself or the people around you. So that's a great song to listen to.
I love that. Yeah, and there's a bunch of radio stations. There's incredible artists too that are popping up. That I would encourage this for anybody, no matter what kind of music, but I have what I call my uplift playlist, because it could be a lot to go and figure out what song you need, because music is really powerful, just like the gym, just like words, just like the Bible. And so sometimes you just need to put something on. It's going to get you out of your head. So I started my own playlist, and it's got all these different songs on it. Everything from I think I got Whitney Houston in there because she's a jam. And there's this one song that I added recently by Colton Dixon, and it's called "Let Them See You and Me," and it makes me cry every time because have you heard that song?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Kev, the premise of the song is let them see you. You as in Jesus. So let them, as you walk every single day, let people look at you and see love and see light and compassion and kindness. And it's just kind of become this personal anthem for me as a reminder of just how I want to walk every day. Like I want people without knowing that I'm a Christian, without knowing that I read the Bible, to feel love and to feel light. And it just it's going to make me cry just thinking about it, because we have such control within our own self to do good things, to help people, to be kind, and without even saying our job description or without giving a paycheck or handing out money, just with a smile and how we just walk in and take up a space. And that's just, I just get humbled that God has put me in this place with this podcast and with all the things he's got coming ahead, that I get to walk into spaces and people look at me and feel love and light. And I never want to forget that, because it's a huge responsibility, but it's an incredible gift, because I was willing to work through a lot of things to get here, to have the discipline, the focus, and to put God first, and to sacrifice, and to we talk a lot of times, when it comes to choosing God, I remember in those stages you were talking earlier, Brandon, of I drank a lot, I went out, I slept around, all the things that you were saying too. And I had to stop doing those things, not because God said to, but because it wasn't honoring myself, and it wasn't honoring me and who I'm meant to be. And so I didn't just get here on accident, you guys. It was definitely intentional, and neither did these guys. It's been an intentional decision after intentional decision of Kevin picking himself up after despair and a huge loss. Brandon deciding this isn't going to be my future with my wife and my daughter. And fast forward, I could never have ever looked at Brandon Baca at 18, and be like, we're going to have a podcast and we're going to do 2 of them. I could never have looked at Kevin my sophomore year of college, be like, dude, wait for it. We're going to you just can't. And so I just believe that you will be honored as a listeners, you'll be honored by the decisions that you make. So let them be good and beautiful, and just commit to yourself to do good things and to be better in your fitness and your faith, and to have that sustainable living. So you guys, thank you so much. This honestly was such a gift. And I know that there's a lot of people here that are now going to go back to listen to your episodes because they're incredible, but also potentially feel like if you did it, they can do it too. And that's all we really need, is someone to go before us, the person that we once were. We are meant to help. And so thank you everybody for watching and for listening. You can follow us on YouTube now. This is so foreign, I'm going to start saying that, but YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and just share this episode, because there's somebody out there that could really benefit from this conversation. So as always, do good things, make me proud, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.